Probably the issue that concerns me most, other than racism in this country, is the distribution of wealth, or lack of distribution of wealth.
There's gross inequalities in society.
If you break down, everyone in the United States and line them up by how much money they have, from poorest to richest. If you took the very first 99%, so almost everybody of those people, from the poorest all the way to the almost richest, that would be the 99%. And then the 1% would be the very richest, the richest 1% of the people in the country.
When you look at those charts, and it's like all of the wealth is in the 1%, and it's just a ridiculous amount in the hands of so few people.
Wealth distribution, I mean, there's a classification in general. If you look at schools, political structures, everything is geared towards helping, in my mind, it's geared towards helping the wealthy and those that are making decisions.
This economic system where corporations don't have an incentive to benefit the less fortunate, well, that system is a problem.
There's a lot of inequality. It's not just about health insurance. It's about bank takeovers. It's about 1% of the population having most of the wealth.
Every time I try to get to the bottom of who's responsible, there's 3 corporations, 3 banks that own it all.
More than a democracy, I see us as a corporate oligarchy, which means corporations are running what's happening. It's big business making the decisions.
When the power of those institutions starts to trump the power of the government, then someone's at fault.
Basically, it comes down to a selfishness. I want to hold on to what I've got. I don't want to give it away.
We are ruled by greed and money.
The economic crisis was not caused by government programs, but it was caused by greed.
Why is there inequality in wealth distribution? Well, a lot of it has to do with what's important. Many people believe money is the most important thing in the world.
People are upset.
I would be surprised if we didn't ultimately have a revolution.
I feel that this is a second American Revolution.
In America, I think people should be protesting every day about something.
People are really hurting economically. People have less money. A lot of people don't have jobs. People are looking for a sense of purpose.
I am one of those who is going to keep on fighting until we get our country back.
The 99% are realizing that they've been asleep at the wheel. And they are at the wheel. That's the part that I want to stress, is that they are at the wheel.
What I'd like to see is a world where we are almost completely self-sufficient.
Suddenly you're seeing not just the stories about Occupy, but you're seeing other stories about wealth in the United States.
I think it's time for people to wake up and just bring balance.
Now that a lot of people in the world are kind of waking up, you have the Arab Spring, you have people all over the world involved in Occupy. There's this sense of like, okay, we have to make some changes as a people on this planet about how we live. Well, how are we going to treat each other as we make those changes? How can we heal together as we're trying to make this better planet?
Being in a place like this, it sparks the communication between the people and hopefully make some movement out of it.
Conversations are what enable us to think and to change our opinions and to gather information. So I think it's already having incredible results.
The N-word class basically depicted like different types of societal constraints that we face, like racism, classism, wealth. And so for a game, we actually played a role-playing game where we were people impoverished in our societies.
I mean, the Game of Life are a series of scenarios where there are families that were created, so groups of students, anywhere from 2 students to 4 students, and they would create a family structure. So there would be maybe a family that was divorced, or just a mother and a father, another family that had 1 child or 2 children. And then based with various life scenarios upon a roll of the dice, which would be a decision in the real world, perhaps a decision not made for you, so that transfers over to the die. As the die rolls, which area are you going to land on?
Each of us got a different family group, and each of us had a different situation. You just learned and experienced how people feel every day as they go through the different struggles that their lives present.
And those are weekly expenses for transportation?
Yeah, but you don't have to pay yet. You just add 30 right now.
Yeah, so the next time I pass this, it's minus
Add 30
Yeah.
bucks.
Another 30. I feel like rich people are more stressed. Even though they have money, I feel like they're stressed.
The thing with rich people is they get money. Like they
Hungry?
have a lot of money, but then they want to be on top.
There's like a TV show that they made about people that worked at a gas station that did like a lottery pool thing, and they all won. And it talks about how like some of them were like starting to invest, and the other ones just like blew it all out, and just like the struggle of like how much greed you get from doing that, and then you can just go right back to working at the gas station.
It just brought a whole new perspective.
I feel as though people don't get as much money as they deserve based on how much they work.
If you're working poor, you're consistently working to survive. I would even go as far to say, like, in this day and age, that even is similar to, like, the middle class. It's sometimes, you know, like lower middle class, too. You're working to survive.
I figure we're playing the game as though it were a game, and by doing that, we're just shooting for the most amount of money by the end. And so when it comes to things like, should we send our kid on a school trip? Should we send our kid to the Girl Scouts? We choose not to do that in the game because they'll give us less money, but in the real life, that also put your child at a disadvantage.
It's the same principle. Like if you don't have money to do it, you really don't have money to do it.
Right, but in real life, you would have so much more motivation to do these things as opposed to playing the board game.
Well,
like
yeah,
you would know, like, I'm already in debt. I want my kid to have a good life. I'm gonna try for this or something.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most shocking parts of the game for me was whether or not you allowed your child to interact with other children through sports or camping or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or something like that.
To play a club sport.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you know.
No.
How much is it?
To make the decision whether or not you're going to spend the money on paying your bills or if you're going to spend the money on trying to make your child happy.
The choices are hard. Because you want to give your kid the best life.
You're playing the game and you don't have any money left and you're so trying to decide whether or not that money is going to go to something like you need to survive for the next month or whether or not it's going to go to something that you really care about, your child's happiness. So.
We started talking about all of this and from the disparities in wealth distribution, right? That was one of the activities we did. Then we talked about the pursuit of happiness and how happiness has perhaps switched to be pursuit of wealth and monetary things as opposed to happiness. And so does this shift that? Like then what do you think happens to people who can't achieve and attain that cultural value that we've set up?
Yeah.
And there's like a psychological link, is my guess, to consumption and happiness in some ways.
So friends who have come into money or have lots of money, until they can deal with their own psychology, how can they even start to figure out what happiness is?
One of my friends who's been in poverty in and out of poverty, is a young person I've worked with, would always say, you know, there's a difference between being in poverty and being poor. And poverty is a number that the government creates and a line that they say if you're below this line, you're in poverty. And being poor is a mindset, and it's literally thinking and having your worldview be shaped by this idea that you're not enough, and that you're not good enough, and that you're not worth it.
Don't buy into the system that has these elitist attitudes where people with power and money are more important than people without.
Looking at the civil rights movement, which people involved in it call it the Southern Freedom Movement, you know, something like the Nashville sit-ins, you know, where people went to a lunch counter and said, you know, you may say that we're not allowed to eat here, but we're human beings and we know that we should be allowed to eat here, so we're going to come sit down. I think of that as like a YouTube video that goes viral, you know? I mean, that is like Charlie bit me, basically, you know? That people did that and suddenly it just made sense. So people in other parts of the country said, wait a second, that makes complete sense. We should do that too.
If the world were, you know, if things got to the point where the financial institutions completely failed and I had nothing, then I would be fine with it.
If there was no such thing as money and everyone just worked for each other and tried like to survive, I think it would be a generally much happier place. It would be much less stress because you know people are caring for you no matter what.
If I just had an unlimited amount of money, I would have the same question then that as I do right now, which is, what do I want to do every single morning when I wake up? What am I going to do? What do I enjoy doing?
This whole idea of the 99 and the 1%, I think even looking at it that way creates a separation.
Eventually, you get rid of all your debt, you pay off all those bills that you've accumulated perhaps in life, but then what do you do? What's going to make you happy? And it's the people around you.
The more money you have, the more possibility it creates for you to cushion yourself from the day-to-day realities of connecting with people.
We don't have to waste money on these imaginary illusions.
People who live a life of poverty often have to base their experiences off other people and like connections and partnerships, and you got to do it together because you can't just be this island.
We invest in time in people. If we don't have the money to do it, we do have the time.
People saw what happens when a lot of people wake up together, and it's woken us up.
To me, there seems to be a lot more connections, a lot more conversations, a lot more relationships, and a lot more soulful living, I would say.
We need to decide that time with our families, the way we live, clean water, those things are more valuable than the maximum amount of plastic stuff that we buy.
Mm-hmm.
That, if you change those things in your hearts and minds, then it sets it up for the next set of changes.
My time is focused upon my family, so spending time with both of my sons, with my wife, and that's what's the most important for me.
Most important thing to me is peace.
Richness of life is happiness. It's a feeling of peace that you get inside you where you're proud of who you are and the decisions you've made.
It implies that you're not going to take advantage of anybody for your own luxury or profit.
It means that I work with people that appreciate who I am and what I have to give, and in turn I appreciate them and what they have to give, and together we become rich. It's relationships. It's a generosity of spirit.
What brings me the greatest contentment in life is to witness myself or others really stretch what it means to be a human being.
My connection with learning and with stretching all the time and growing, that to me makes you wealthy.
Ability to connect with nature, to go on hikes, to go camping, I think those are all things that are, what make me feel abundant.
The good life is love. You love the people lavishly that you're with, that you're around, and you spread that message instead of spreading a message that is uncaring and unconnected.
Things that generally bring me joy, and I think this is something that holds true for a lot of people, is just something new, like a new experience.
You guys are lucky to have such great leaders.
I'm a bit nervous because I haven't led the wilderness trip before.
We're gonna take good care of each other, and we're gonna have fun.
We're unifying together as a culture, how we're creating community.
I'm a little bit
excited to
so that it's
get
easier
everyone
for us
together.
to get out.
Without community, it's kind of hard to then, to say, look at the wealth structure.
There's a lot we can do, I think, very quickly, and we have to.
Why isn't this grass? Why isn't this all permaculture? Plants that grow here, food and edible items that grow here.
There's a lot of voice that people have, and they can cause and make change.
Eventually, they're going to have to pay attention.
Voluntarily dedicating your life to a noble cause, to a purpose outside yourself, is the most beautiful way you can live your life.
Food Not Bombs is a program where we take food from grocery stores that would normally throw the food in the trash, and we go collect that food. We bring it and cook a meal.
We believe that food is a right, not a privilege.
There is no condition.
We are committed to serving free vegetarian and vegan food to people all over the world without restriction. And we do it to protest for poverty and the destruction of the environment.
So right now we're at the Denver Art Society. Some of the art in the background, this is Ryan Amos's work. This place is a cooperative art gallery. There's some residential spaces upstairs, and down here there's sculptures and different kinds of art, and it's a very community kind of thing.
What's important to me is community and relationships and collaborating.
Volunteering is an area for you just to really connect with other people and to learn more about yourself and to help others.
The gallery itself is owned by the members, which the members are the artists, and I like to help here.
It's part of this reciprocity of giving and taking in life. When you're part of a system like that, oh my gosh, more people want to be a part of it.
It just allows you to take that step back and puts your life in perspective.
There are plenty of decisions that we can make that help the world in really beautiful ways.
Don't look at yourself as a single grain of sand. Look at yourself as the beach.
I think that 99% has taken advantage of and really put to work about 20% of what they're capable of.
You don't have to be concerned about how you're going to do it. You just have to know that you are going to do it.
There's always more that can be done.
Everybody is amazingly powerful. We've just been trained and basically brainwashed to think we have no power, that we're just one little thing, but we're part of everything.
My whole philosophy of life is the more you give away, the more you get in life. That's how I look at it. And so give it away. Give away your time. Give away your love. Spread it around. And lo and behold, it makes you rich.
Our last album was called Survival Story, and the idea of that is that instead of spending all our time thinking about the world's ending in 2012, there's going to be Armageddon, it's all almost over, we have to write a different story. We have to write the story of how we can survive. And because usually the story you write or the story you obsess over is the story that can come true. So if we obsess over the end of the world, we might accidentally make it come true. So let's obsess over a story where we all survive.